I'm going to run through some of the stuff that I had to do to get this mini-man animated and his blend shapes working in Unreal Engine. It's not really a tutorial of any kind. I'm just going to run through some of the stuff I did on a high level. Just going to bring up this guy in smooth preview mode and just select his jaw. That's all I'm really interested in here. So all of his components here are detachable. They were modeled, rigged and skinned separately of the main character. I'm going to bring up the blend shape editor here. And you can see he's got some basic shapes that he can do. He can blink. I just created a few simple mouth movements, nothing serious, just to test. And his jaw is hooked up as well. His mouth might need a bit of work more on the texturing, on the UV mapping side, but that's fine. It was created simply for this purpose. Then for skinning, all of the models here are skinned and rigged to the same skeleton, so they move together. And I also animated the blend shapes. So if this animation is exported, the blend shapes are included. The second thing I did is I created high-level polygons for all of these components, and created level of detail for them. So put them in an LOD group. So what that gives me is, if you look in these other panels here, you can see the geometry data change as the mesh gets further and further away and closer. There's only one, I only added one lower level of detail. So there's one base level and one lower level for every component. So every component has its own level of detail. And this includes everything, the animation, the blend shapes, they're all level of detail. They all have level of detail. So if you really wanted to, you just use the low poly model. So all of this, well, let's run through the textures quickly. The textures were created with Substance Painter. So it's obviously UV mapped in Maya, creating Substance Painter, and then just applied some of the effects that you get with Substance Painter. I didn't spend a hell of a lot of time to try and make my own. But I did want to get some variance, especially in the jacket, just that it looks a bit different. And then on the pants, I just scribbled a little bit. So this is me just playing around. This was then exported as textures or images to Substance Designer, which is what I really want. So this is physically based rendering. It's got base color, normal, roughness, and metallic. So these were created from Substance Painter, and that's really all this is supposed to do, is give me an SBSAR file. So when I look at the pants model here, and I can grab at the shirt. And the same for the hair. Let's have a look at the hair. All created in Substance Painter. These are then packaged and exported to SBSAR files, which are then imported into Unreal Engine. And Unreal Engine then goes and creates instances of these SBSAR files and gives you materials for them using their standard or connected to the right nodes, etc. I also then went and created a lower resolution. This is an instance, so I just want to find the parent. The lower resolution material for the lower level LOD. So it only has base color, which is all you really want for the lower level LOD. So then the mesh was imported with all its with its skeleton, and the level of detail was imported as well, all in one, because it was exported from the FBX, and then I just set the screen size to what I thought was okay. You can see the morph targets are here. You can see them working. And the animation is also here. There's only one created test animation, really, so it's needed. And this is going to be the driver mesh or skeleton, and obviously this mesh, but this skeleton is going to be the driver for all other components. So the clothes, the hair, everything was bind to this skeleton, which we'll get to in a second. The next thing I did was created a blueprint. Well, created a C++ actor class to provide me with a few things. The first thing I really wanted to do was separate the ability to put on clothing, so he knows he can wear a shirt, pants, boots, jacket. He can wear a hat. Obviously the hair and the brows. And then there's just a few helper methods to initialize those things, and to actually equip them, they will get called from Blueprint saying just equip something randomly. So it'll choose something random from the inventory and just equip it just for this test. So whatever, if the inventory contains an item with the name shirt, it's going to put it in the shirt slot. He's going to equip it in the shirt slot. So he also has a list of inventory items, which is this array here. Nothing overly fancy. And this is the blueprint instance. First let's have a look here. So I set a few properties from the blueprint itself, not from C++. The first one is the inventory. I filled from the imported meshes, and those are, for example, the boots. They also have level of detail. They work on the same principle as the character, but these will not be, they're all bound to the same skeleton, but yeah, in the blueprint we'll get to that in a second, how that's done. So the next thing is these other slots here are completely empty. They don't contain any information. They don't contain any animation data or any mesh or anything. They're just a skeletal mesh component that's attached to the root component and not to the mesh. The mesh itself, these properties I set here for this blueprint instance. So these are not driven by were not driven by C++, but this animation you can override from Blueprint. I exposed a method for that. So that's why this mesh is showing up here and is moving around. That wasn't set from C++. Then this is the most important part. You have to call set master pose component, ensuring that the mesh is the target, and that all of the slots where you want to equip stuff to are the targets. So what that will do is any animation that's playing on the mesh will be any transformations that happen on those bones. These guys will be using those transformations for their animation. So they'll effectively be bound to the same skeleton as the mesh, and they won't be using their own or another instance of. And then in the event graph, so when this little blueprint starts up, all it does is this goes on a little loop, equips something randomly, and randomly decides to stop and play the animation. That's all this does. So this calls the C++ method. and its job is just simply to choose something randomly from the inventory and put it in the right slot. So if the name is a shirt, it will equip it to the shirt skeletal mesh component. And the equip method, all that does is it just simply sets the skeletal mesh, which skeletal mesh to equip. So at the moment there's no unequip, but for this demo I didn't really need that. Okay, and here's the guy. I just placed him here in some light. This is actually a third-person blueprint, but my main character here is hidden, my player pawn, because I just want to have a look at this guy and see what he does. So he's just going to start moving or start equipping stuff, and you'll see them move with him. That's it. Let's have a look. And the morph target should be there. Just going to spin around. Stopped again. The level of detail you can see is working. There you can see lots of geometry, less geometry, lots of geometry, less, and they all work independently. All of the components. Hope you're going to start moving again. Still hasn't equipped his hair and the brows. There we go. Oh, that's random for you. And the lower level materials do not have bump mapping applied, so they look very smooth. It's supposed to be, and when you get closer up you'll see more detail, including in his face. There'll be cracks and whatever. Still hasn't equipped his shirt. Oh, there we go, or his brows. So yeah, this guy obviously, I wouldn't use him in the game. He needs some work, a lot more cleanup. But this was good to establish the workflow and figure out how these things work. I haven't used Maya before. There we go. I was waiting for the brows. The brows morph animation or blend shapes are actually driven by the eyes or the brows of the mesh. So the brows don't have, their keyframes are set by moving the blend shapes of these brows up and down, which you can see in Maya. If I didn't close it. Probably be on the low level mesh. That's fine. So this is the brow, which is a separate mesh, but then you can see here the actual geometry here above the eyes is what's driving the brows. So I can set the keyframe for the animation only for the eyebrows itself, be above the brow, not the separate mesh, and it will go together, and that's what's happening there. Yeah, anyway, that's it. Thanks.